Hello, good afternoon, viewers. It is again the Business X-RAY show, where, of course, we share with you. It goes beyond tips. Actually, we talk about lessons on how you can make it in business. Now, it's away from motivational speaking. We're talking about practical ways through which you can make it in business. And as usual, we host and bring on board entrepreneurs, people that are in business, that are doing it, and at the same time, we have the experts to help distill that message and that information so that we can, get proper context for the good of what we are doing, for the good of our business operations. And today, we have a special session on resuscitating businesses, anchoring on one of, a major entrepreneur in the bee or honey sector from northern, I think that's the mid-north, yeah. Lira city, and he's going to introduce himself in a while. But before I go there, again, allow me to introduce once again Charles. It's been a while. Charles, you're most welcome.
Thank you so much, and I'm so delighted to be back on this show. Truly, truly, truly delighted. This is a show I can put away anything to be part of because of the feedback we're getting from the public. And
thank you. That's Charles Ochichi. He's the Managing Director, Enterprise Uganda. The people who are supporting this show in conjunction with Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Now, without any further ado, I'll move to our guest, Robert. Please introduce yourself to the viewers. They need to get a feel of who Robert is.
Okay, I'm Mr. Robert Okodia. I'm an entrepreneur, a social entrepreneur. I'm based in Lira. I am into honey value chain. Currently, I'm working with about 10,000 smallholder farmers in the greater northern Uganda, West Nile, Acholi, Laon, Teso, and Karamoja. And we have a honey factory in Lira. We are doing about 4 products. We are doing honey, we are doing beeswax. Beeswax actually for export, honey for local sales and regional sales. And then we are doing bee venom and then propolis tincture. Thank you.
Thank you. Always, in the journalism world, we say, kiss it, keep it short.
Correct.
Always to the point. Now, that is Robert. Now, as we progress in the show, I'll be playing with you, rather for you, a video of Robert and what he's doing on the ground. But before we go or reach that particular space, I would like to, again, come back to you, Robert, just to give a bit of a background. For starters, people don't just wake up and find themselves with 10,000 farmers. You said you have 10,000 farmers that you work with.
Yeah.
Again, people don't just wake up and find themselves doing the kind of business you're doing at the scale you're doing it. So, where do you begin your working journey? If you may start there.
Yeah, I think it's about 12 years ago. And initially, I was a writer in New Vision, and I saved some money to start an enterprise. But I think before I left New Vision, I was inspired because I was doing farming and business stories. So that motivated me because I was interviewing a lot of people who were successful in farming and businesses. So then that gave me a lot of inspiration. Then too, during that time, I interviewed a guy, Lester Lee, who was exporting honey from Uganda. So he was telling me enormous opportunity we have in honey business, probably even the next 100 or 200 years. If you're still in that business, you'll still make an income. Then I started with 2 beehives. Journalism work, it's hand to mouth. You can't save much. So, and then I started with 2 beehives in my village.
Keep saying journalism is a calling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, sure, it's a calling. Yes. So I started with 2 beehives. Initially, I wanted my dad to take care of it, but he wasn't interested on that. So probably every weekend, I had to go and check my hives. When I placed it up, it colonized immediately. The bees entered immediately. Then after about 90 days, 3 months, I did my first harvest, 20 kilograms of honey. Then I invested it back in buying more hives. Then eventually, I had a social background, because I come from a humble family. So I was like, can I share my skill with my community members? So that also they can gain. So then I started to train some more people within my community so that they can also do the same. I keep the bees, also they keep, so that we can probably get some income. So then that's how I started the journey. And now I own an apiary, a farm of bees, and I was among the best farmers in the New Vision, the FCU competition. Now I have about 500 colonies.
500 colonies.
Yeah, that supports my company in addition to the 10,000 farmers I work with.
I hear you.
And then the other milestone is now I employ about 12 people full-time. But because of the pandemic, we were about 20. So we had to reduce on the staff. And then we are reaching about 20 supermarkets, about 1,000 plus individuals who buy from us. And then we are exporting to Japan, beeswax, about 5,000 metric ton annually. And actually, our current annual production for honey is 25 metric ton, 25,000 kilogram every year. Yeah, the numbers look big, but I think we have challenges in production skills, harvesting and post-harvest handling.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Hold it there, Robert. And I think, Charles, this is where I want to bring you in. Quite touching story.
Yeah.
And I must say that Robert's story is not very far from mine, because I'm a journalist by profession, definitely. And I've talked to a number of business people.
Yeah.
I've been hosting these business shows for quite some time, almost 20 years now. And I've been touched sometimes by the kind of stories you get in the field. I mean, you go to interview this farmer with your tie and a jacket, and he starts talking numbers and he humbles you.
Correct.
I don't know what you pick from Robert's story there.
You know, Charles, this is the beauty of this show. This show has demystified professions. It has demystified humble beginnings. It has demystified locations. You can start a business anywhere. I hear journalists speaking a PRA language so accurately, so distinctly. He talks about propolis. He talks about, what's the other?
Venom, bee venom.
Venom, bee venom.
Yeah.
You look at it and then you just say, we hold ourselves back. 2 beehives was the starting story. 2. And I'm sure it was like a small change from what the little that he was getting. And just say, let me put these 2 beehives in our farm. He didn't say, which is the best location? It should be nearer the swamp, should be nearer the water. You know, when you go to the theory of beekeeping, they will tell, please put it nearer the water. Please put it nearer the flowers. Put it, the fellow says, I have land in my village. Where are you located? In
Agali sub-county in Nadiaka parish now.
You see?
Yeah,
and that's where you put the beehives?
City center, yes.
And that's where you started from?
Yes.
And did you have some peculiar technical training in beehives before you started?
No, I didn't.
Or what's your background in terms of education? I know a journalist is one of the things you mentioned.
I was an orphan at 2 years old.
Wow.
And then my grandmother took care of me.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then my elder brother, who now work with me as operation manager, took care of me at primary school.
Interesting.
And then
interesting.
And my education background, I went up to O level. Then I had to drop after the exam. Yeah. Because there was no much fees to move
pay.
On. But after about, I dropped for 2-3 years to raise some money, then I went back.
Wow.
So I did a number of training in entrepreneurship, in journalism, in business. And that time, Enterprise Uganda offered me a good training.
Very interesting.
On how to start and grow a business.
Interesting.
So that's about 11 years ago. I still remember how the training, it was Robert Mawanda.
I know Robert Mawanda, that's correct.
Sure. That was a very important skill for me as a businessman now.
Wow.
I think some of the skills, I'm now trying to utilize it now. That time, I was hesitant, but now sometimes I have challenges in the business. Then when I look back, I said, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, as you can see, the fears of starting, the fears of imagining what do I go and do, which sector do I select. These are the things we are trying to demystify in this show. That start with the lowest hanging fruit you can ever go for. To him, it was putting some 2 beehives
in that place,
in the village, and watching them get colonized And then he stated something interesting. He said, I got 20 kilos of honey. I sold it. I reinvested. Keyword there. The ability to appreciate that the profit that came from the 20 kilos should not excite you to improve your lifestyle consumption. But instead say, hey, it has worked. If it has worked, it means there's a customer. If there's a customer and the customers are more, how do I start reaching them? One of the available resources I must work on is the profit I got earlier on. Put it back. Put it back. Today the 2 beehives is 500 beehives of nuclear farm. But with the nuclear farm, he has been able to create impact through influence across another 10,000 farmers.
And actually, those apiary farm, it's acting as a training center for the local community. For example, if you're interested in venturing into honey production, for me, I do hands-on training. I take you to the field. We talk about the vegetation, the environment, what is needed, how to set it up, and then how to work with the bees, and then we take you back.
I hear you. I think that's brilliant indeed.
Interesting.
Yes.
And just to make again another comment there, you can see how a person who says, I have seen honey come from humble beginnings. In my neighborhood are people with potential to do the same. Can I transfer these skills to all of you?
All of them.
And it's doing that not necessarily because, and I hope it is true, not because each one of those must bring their honey to him. He says, please, I learned this, it's doable. Instead of you coming to me asking for 50,000 for treatment, 100,000 as contribution to school fees, come and take the wisdom, the knowledge, and use it. I'm also going to offer you a market outlet through my bee value adding opportunity, but if you feel you want to sell,
I think
please proceed.
Actually, the other thing is, like some of my friends, when I started to venture into this, they told me, Robert, you have capacity to stay within town. Why do you want to go to the village? What are you going to do there? So I told them,
satisfaction.
I said, no, I have a purpose, I have a vision, I have a mission. That's why I'm going. But now, some of them, they're not working. They need to look for me to get probably money for food.
Which, by the way, begs the question, because many a time when we start out, the thinking is always small. Especially, coming from the kind of humble background that you mentioned.
Yes.
But from what you're saying, you immediately switch to this wider vision.
Yeah.
Because if you start to talk about community, imagining your people, village mates also joining and that kind of thing, I don't know what triggered that in you. How did you, get to that point?
Okay. You know the history of northern Uganda and the LRA rebel, and actually I was among the guys who live in the camp as well. So then when the peace normalizes, I was like, because of the social impact and my background, I was like, what can I do for my fellow young people or my community? Then I started a CBO called a Jakaroro Youth Development Initiative, just to do social impact, capacity building, best practices, best farming practices, and eventually that graduated to what I am today, to a new company, which is Wimro Bees, which is exporting. Two, I wanted to create an employment opportunity for myself. I wanted to be self-employed, actually. Then also create jobs for my fellow young people, and then also conserve my environment, but also improve the income at household level. That's beautiful. So those were things at the background of all this effort.
Okay. Yeah. I get you. Now, there are principles always at the start. They start, sometimes when we talk about it, Charles, it might appear like it's a walk in the park. But there are those little nitty-gritty things. Because I imagine when you started with your 2 beehives, there was something driving you, and there's a certain discipline I'm sure you had to respect. And then when you started to scale, reinvested and then scaling and that kind of thing. If you can share with us some of the, principles or the behaviors, the discipline that
led to that expansion.
To that expansion where you now start to impact the community.
And it's a key question, Charles, because you go to various villages today in northern Uganda, easternUganda.
Yes.
A person who had 5 beehives is still having 5 beehives. But it's 10 years on. A person who had 2 beehives, the 2 beehives have become even almost rotten and broken. He can't replace the 2 beehives. He started with the 2, he's at 500.
Yeah.
But he has also progressed to now get that working model to reach out to the community. So what you are asking is a key point we want to hear from Robert, how he managed to keep going. And yet a majority of people who were there before him are still on 3 or 4 or 5 beehives.
Thank you very much. Initially, my idea was to build the capacity for my communities. So then when I started doing the training, beekeeping, and then other enterprises within the community, people who are into honey started harvesting honey and then bringing it to me. Robert, can you look for us the market? I said, fine, that is okay. Then, you know, I was staying in the town center, so I could meet some business people. They go pick on credit. Sometimes they pay, sometimes they delay to pay. And then still the community comes back to me, Robert, there's this challenge still. We need market. So that motivated me to go into honey value chain, to start adding value. Then I looked around, who's into honey within Lira or at Uganda? Then I found a company in Kampala here that I visited. I took like 4 days. I sponsored myself to come and then learn. They actually accepted me. And during that process, I was also working with them, trying to do what they're doing, like packaging, branding, processing. So then I learned a lot. Then from there, I had the opportunity to go to Tanzania, Tawiri Research Center, where I got some more skills, some hands-on skills on beekeeping value chain. And then also I visited Zambia. That was sponsored by Private Sector Foundation Uganda. I had a benchmarking visit, training actually. And then also Ethiopia. Those 3 countries are the leading honey producers in Africa. So I visited and then I learned a lot, and that's why I'm doing it now. But also the other thing is to create employment opportunity
for your people,
to inspire more youth to venture into agriculture as a way of earning a living.
So in these interactions at the company and then the exposure you got in Tanzania and all these places, you were able to see how it's supposed to be done. Now, there's something you mentioned there which is quite interesting, because I know there are quite a number of people who are into honey, but they don't really look at it as purely a business. I don't know if you can speak to that as well.
Yeah.
How do you, because you see, I mean, if I got my hive, I put it there, I don't feed these bees, I only go there to harvest. And I think that's where Charles was talking about, that, you know, someone can have just 2 hives, and they are in tatters, but it just keeps going. There's a certain kind of laziness it can create. What, or can you advise our viewers that are into that space, or nursing ambitions of going there, on how they can actually look at this as a business?
Okay. Charles, thank you so much. Like I said, I started with 2 hives, but I was seeing something out of the 2, because probably if I had more 2 to make 4 or 10 to make 12, I wanted my numbers to increase. But the numbers increasing probably will increase with my production as well. So, and I invested little money for 2 hives to start. So, but now, if you can invest like 10 hive or 20 hive to start, on average, that will give you 10 hive, on average 10 kilogram per hive. That's 100 kilogram of honey. And then at 10,000 per kilogram, that's about $1 million shilling. And
that's after what period of time?
About 3 months, 90 days.
That's 90 days, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So and probably you have invested about 500,000 in the beehive, and then the kits, the suit you put
the
on,
gear and all that.
the gears, the smokers. These are the basic tools. Probably it goes up to about 800,000. But on your first harvest, you're already making a profit of 200,000. So, and then chances is high that in the subsequent harvesting season, the yield is going to increase because the bees will probably multiply in the hive, and the colony is very strong. So probably the other time was 30,000 bees, but now it's 60,000 bees. So eventually it will double the production in the hive.
Interesting.
So your first harvest may not meet your expectation, but the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth harvest will make you laugh. Yes.
I hear you.
So
Charles is already, yes.
yeah. So probably starting, you can start small.
Yeah.
Don't probably look at my number now, 500, and you want to start with 500, Charles. You can start with what you can afford.
I hear you.
But you know, you need to be focused. You need to have a vision. Where do you want to go tomorrow with your two hive today?
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a journey. I started way back 11 years ago, but now there are people who think now they can start now and be like me. It's a process. It's a journey.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. I don't know whether there's something we can pick from there.
Yes, yes, yes. It's very interesting because as we illustrated earlier on, we said there are many Ugandans into beekeeping, but like a by-the-way activity.
True.
Whether it's colonized, whether it's harvested on time, nobody is interested to know. Look at how he speaks. He speaks the first colony has few workers, few working bees. The next harvest will have had more working bees in the same colony, and the harvest will be much bigger. That kind of industry knowledge is beautiful. But I wanted to see a few things that came out of his response to how he managed to graduate into commercial operation. You could see, one, he disrupted his comfort zone. He no longer remained in that village in Lira, in Lango, and associated with people of two beehives, 10 beehives. He said, where is this thing being done better? How he got to know about Tanzania, I think he has a story to that. Who made him to cross and go there? He paid the price. He went to Tanzania. How many of us are willing to do that? And who are willing to announce that, you know, I'm in this village, next week I'm traveling to Tanzania, there are people who are doing beekeeping there. They laugh at you. This fool is wasting money. Try to go and learn how to look after bee in Tanzania. Please put the money on more maize. So that disrupting your comfort zone and looking for people who are doing it professionally. He went to Tanzania, he picked a skill. He was not satisfied. Maybe from Tanzania, maybe that's how he got to know about Zambia. And then from Zambia, he said again, which other country in Africa? Ethiopia. He came to know about Ethiopia. So you can see a key trait of an entrepreneur: disrupt a comfort zone where you associate with the mediocre players in the sector where you are. Once you have seen somebody slightly better than you, don't surround yourself with the spirit of envy. Surround yourself with the spirit of learning and a desire to get better. And that opportunity always exists. Then he said, learn, 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 learn. Now, learning does not necessarily mean a beehive takes about this number of days to get colonized. After you've learned, practice it.
That's right. That's right. That's quite powerful, Charles.
So really, Ugandans, I want to tell you that whichever sector that you want to go into, please start where you are. Having started where you are, please challenge yourself by looking for people doing slightly better than you and go and pick up those lessons. It works.
It's part of the investment.
It really works. Because seeing another human being do what you are doing, you come back when the brain is at a revving point. It's saying, I saw that woman, I saw that woman, I saw that, I'm going to do it. No other force will stop you after seeing that.
It rubs off, and exposure is always good.
Very true.
Thanks, Charles. Dear viewers, at this moment, I'm going to take you down to where Robert is doing what he's doing, just to give you a feel of what we are talking about. My producer is going to play for you a short montage so that we get an appreciation of where Robert is coming from.
I'm Mr. Robert Okodia. I'm the CEO and the founder of Wimro Bees Company Limited. We are into the complete honey value chain, and here we are at one of our apiary. This apiary is having about 100 beehive. It's one of the clusters. We have like 4 clusters. Each of it has about 100 beehives. Here we have local hive and then KTB basically. I got inspired when I was young, about 21 years old. I was looking for something to earn me an income so I can probably support my parents, pay my school fees. So then I ventured into beekeeping. I started with 5 beehives, and now I have about 500 beehives. After a period of about 10 years now that I've been into beekeeping. 2, I wanted also to create employment opportunity for my fellow young people. As we have a number of outgrowers, 10,000 outgrowers that we work with. So we want them to improve on their income, their household income. So we train them with my team on good management practices, on beekeeping as a business. When you have like 10 hives, every harvesting season, you could generate about 1.2 million from the 10 beehives. So there are farmers who have like 50 beehives, they're able to generate about 3.5 million to 4 million per season. So we have 2 seasons in a year. So that means they get about between 8 million for people with 20 hives, and then about 3 million for people with 10 beehives. So there's nothing much you do. After placing your hives, you go do other work. So beekeeping is an activity that when you're doing, you don't spend a lot of time on it. You place your hive, you come and do basics management, supervising, see how the bees are flying, and then you go do other activities. What do you do if you want to start up? 1, you need to probably raise a capital that can start you a minimum of 10 beehive. That is commercial production. 10 beehive, that's about 500,000. 500,000 you have invested in your beehive, and eventually probably you needed something like a bee suit to protect you, like mine here. When you want to do hive inspection, visit your apiary, you need something like this. You need a bee suit, and then you need a smoker, you need a gloves, you need a good environment, which is far from a public place, probably about 200 meters away from a public place, like schools, market, main road, busy places actually. We do honey, it's one of our products. We have different packaging. We have export packaging, local packaging for local market, and then also regional market. We have regional packaging. We also do beeswax. Beeswax basically do for export to Japan. And then currently we have got 2 new innovations. One of them is we are making bee venom honey. It's one of the best natural immune boosting product. And it's suppressing a lot of diseases, and probably one of them is COVID-19. 2, we are doing a propolis throat spray, and basically this also supports you immune boosting and then clean your throat, especially people who move out in the fields. So those are basically 4 products that we are currently doing. We also do training, consultancy services, and then we do also beekeeping equipments. So any of this, we're actually in the complete honey value chain. What we are now, our niche is beeswax. Beeswax has export market in Japan, and we do 100% for export. We normally export on a minimum 5 metric ton of beeswax. That is 5,000 kilograms of beeswax. So that's the minimum we're supposed to expect. But our client would want to receive up to probably 20 metric ton, but our capacity is still low. So there's that challenge. We want to scale it up, but issues for market is huge. And probably this year, we want to do about 10,000 kilograms, 10 metric ton of beeswax. Because the last 1 year, because of COVID, we have not exported anything to our clients, so now the order has doubled. So we're going to do 10,000 kilograms of beeswax to Japan. One of our uniqueness is quality product. we have promised to give our clients quality honey products, and that's the uniqueness we have, to offer our client the best organic, fresh honey. Currently, the company employs 12 staff full-time, and then 20 staff part-time. It's just because of COVID-19. Actually, before COVID, we're almost employing about 20 staff full-time, and then about 40 staff part-time. But because of the pandemic impact on the business, we had to reduce on some staffs, and then also part-time staff. I started working with 20 farmers who were supplying me with honey, and now we have achieved big number, big volume. Now we are working with 10,000 farmers, and the 20 farmers was producing up to about 1,000 kilograms. But now our capacity with the network we have achieved an annual production of 30 metric tons of honey annually, and then between 5,000 to 10,000 metric tons for beeswax. 2, we are able to set up our facility. We have the best honey processing machine, I think, in Africa, honey spinner. So we have just started our journey. We have a big vision. What we want to see is we want to impact the life of about 30,000 farmers, maybe in the next 10 years. We want to work with 30,000 farmers. We want to improve their livelihood. We want to change their life. We want them to increase on their household income through beekeeping and honey production. So the 30,000 will be able to probably produce for us about 500,000 metric tons of honey for our market. So that is one of our future plans, to scale up to about 500 metric tons of honey annually. And then we want also to do about 50 metric tons of beeswax annually.
Of Robert, and you can clearly see that the man is really serious about what he's doing. If you've seen people doing bees or honey, for that matter, probably some could be doing it as just a practice, not a business purely. Yeah. But yeah, you can clearly see this is a man with a vision, and a clear vision to actually make it in business in this particular subsector. Now, Charles, I see quite very important virtues coming out here.
Very true.
The virtue of quality.
Exactly.
I see the virtue of being able to play across the entire value chain.
Exactly.
And I see the man trying to break, you know, there's that barrier. You can play in the domestic market.
Correct.
But there's some dynamics.
Correct.
That comes with breaking.
Very true.
Boundaries or borders.
Very true.
To go and play in the international market.
Exactly.
I don't know what you pick from there before.
No, I agree with you completely. You can see this man, and I don't think anybody pushed him to go for a Q mark. He simply saw the need to say, how do I get my honey to reach the customer who needs it at a particular standard?
Yeah.
He went and paid the price to get a Q mark. How do I ensure that my packaging measures up to that standard of Brazil, of Israel, and all these other countries that are exporting honey? You saw the kind of the glass bottle that is having there. You see the way they carefully do the labeling of the bottle. All that is standardization, consistency, and ensuring that I've entered a certain arena. And in that arena, nobody will buy because you are from Africa, let's allow you this, this window.
Yes.
They buy because it matches the competition. You know, to see somebody who started from a village where you could basically take unprocessed honey and just throw it there and go home with a few coins, to now somebody who says, I'm going to process it. But as I process it, I'm processing it with the market in mind. That market, I did not get it vacant. I found a player there. This is a beautiful story.
Indeed.
And Robert, truly, these are the kind of things we treasure when we say we need Ugandans to take our products abroad. But this is not just about mentioning that we have plenty of honey. There's a lot to be done.
Yeah.
And when we talk about formalization, it's not just about registration here.
Yeah.
You can register, but you're informal. You can call yourself any kind of a name you want to call yourself, but if your consistency is questionable, you are very informal. The person has addressed all the aspects that make him to fit on merit in the market he has chosen. But it would be interesting to see how he went for this peculiar beeswax thing. I even didn't know what anybody would use it for. Yeah. Other than, you know, at school I think they would say candles.
Yes.
But now it's going to Japan. How did that happen?
Indeed.
Yeah, I think when I started testing the market, here, like some few cosmetic companies were like buying some few qualities and then quantities of beeswax. But I went to very many shows outside Uganda, exhibition, trade shows. So those trade shows, I got inspired in those trade shows with the kind of products exhibited in terms of quality and then volume, quality and quantity actually. Then eventually I came back home and then set my target. I also need to reach where these people are. So then working with this on my mind and where I could get the best machines to do this was one thing. Two, I had to register with Uganda Export Promotion Board so that I could get some information on export for free. They actually give for free to members. Then also Uganda Investment Authority. So those two companies supported me with getting information on export and then the market.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Now, there's, because the scale where you are today, I mean, I see machines, and you categorically stated in that video that you believe some of the machines, you're the only one who has them in Africa. And I have no doubt, really, if you can export to the Japanese market.
Correct.
Knowing how, you know, particular Japanese are when it comes to quality.
Correct.
I'll have little doubt on that. But how do you now start to come out of just owning beehives and mobilizing your community around to now investing in the kind of establishment we've seen with the machines that go with that?
Okay, one, I still want to offer my market and my client the best.
I hear you.
So then probably this machine in 5 years I may not be using them. I may invest in other machines. And then also I want to invest in the outgrowers. If they can produce the right quality and then quantity for the market, we are willing to pay them better. Okay. So there's investment there. Okay. And then also our storage is small now for the kind of production we want to go to. So we want to invest in facility for storage, storing both raw material and then finished product.
I get you.
And then we want to create more hubs, honey collection centers. But the model we want to use is we want to inspire some of our already existing farmers to become agents, because probably 10,000, 20,000 farmers, we may not have enough extension workers. But we want to build up from these farmers to become micro-entrepreneurs. Then eventually they will become business partners with me, with the company. Because I know some of them have experience like 10, 15 years. They know what the company needs in terms of quality. So we'll use them because they have some local experience. They can train some farmers around their villages.
I love that spirit. And I think, Charles, you will speak to that as well. You know, the spirit of opening up for others to come and invest in a business. We always want to hold what is ours. Correct. But again, as Charles comes in, what I wanted to know is that very few people would imagine that someone can invest in honey or go into the honey business and end up being a processor at your level. You know, did you get a loan? Was it money you got out of the sales? I mean, how did you do it? And I'm sure there are many viewers who are wondering.
Yes.
They looked at that video and they're like, how did he do it?
Oh yeah, sure. Like I said, I started with my own saving, but the saving was not enough.
Yeah.
The other thing is I work so hard. I do a lot of other work, not only in the sector.
Okay.
I can be hired to do other things.
Okay.
So, and then I make money from it. Two, the local banks in Lira, I work with about 2-3 of them. But the facility I was speaking was very small. Yeah, it was very small. So then I got one of my partners, is a Dutchman, who gave me a loan, a personal loan, without interest, $80,000 US.
Interesting.
So then I invested it in the machine and then working capital.
Great.
But that, because he believed in me, I was transparent, I was honest. I had a plan. Actually, my plan is number one. I had a very good plan.
So you had a structured business from the word go?
Yes, sure. Yeah, because of the training I got from Enterprise Uganda. So that built my capacity to plan.
Tell us about that training.
Oh, how to start and grow your business. It's very intensive training for 7 days. 6 days actually.
Okay.
And if you miss a day, they take you out of the program.
It's their stuff.
Yeah, so it's very serious. And I think most of the people who have come out of the training should be 90% successful. I can't meet some of them now, but I believe they're doing something great. Yeah.
Beautiful. Charles?
Yeah, probably before I come in, I just wanted to know, how did you meet this Dutch person? Because somebody would also say, this man must have prayed, he must have been a very lucky man.
God lucky, yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Charles. I do a lot of good things for the community. And I think for him, he's investing in NGOs, like give his money to empower rural poor people. So one of the projects he was funding, I did the training for the farmers, for the community.
Yes.
So when he visited the community was like, we have got the best skills we have never had in beekeeping and honey production. Are you sure? Yes. So then my money, the money you have invested in this NGO and us has not gone wrong. We are happy to tell you now, onward, we are very great producers of honey. And we are going to do great. So then, who was this guy who did the training? So then, that's how he came to know me. Then he tried to build up a relationship with those guys in the NGO so he can meet me. Eventually, I was open because I'm an open-minded person. I had a meeting. He sent me an email that he wants to meet me. He's coming in the country. He came, we met. I picked him from the airport, we met. 5 days, we've been meeting. And eventually he said he's going to put money. He trusts, he believes in what I'm doing. And the impact I'm creating. He has talked to some few farmers that I train, how the training has helped them, not only in producing honey, but also in other enterprises and the market-based approach that I use in my honey value chain.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So the spirit of giving attracts more giving.
And believe me, money in working hands only multiplies.
Yeah.
You deposit money in idle folded hands, no impact. In fact, you reinforce idleness.
I hear you.
And I think this is something that we all want to appreciate. At our personal level, family level, clan level, we tend to just give money. Look for a person already sweating it out. See what he has done? They found him, I don't know how many farmers he was working with at that time. Now he's at 10,000. So these people were saying, this 80,000 is worth it. The impact on the community is massive. And it's such a powerful takeaway for all of us. We have always just imagined that just get anybody idle, looking for what to do, and then just give them something to in their hands. Get somebody sweating and doing something that the brain will never touch and waste that resource.
I hear you.
Yeah.
On that note, Charles, we're going to take a very short commercial break, viewers. We are picking the story of Robert. Robert is a bee farmer from Lira. Initially, he was a journalist, a correspondent for the New Vision, and is now an entrepreneur in bee subsector or honey subsector. He's sharing with us his story. He's already exporting, and I think when we come back from the break, he's going to tell us about the export story, plus of course what he has been able to see coming his way.
And some of the awards he has been given.
Since making that leap. But then also we'll hear and pick your questions and comments. We're going to flash that number, the WhatsApp number. We're going to forward all those questions, you know, for Robert and Charles here to help us, you know, understand this story for the betterment of our business aspirations as well after this break. Welcome back, viewers. After the break, again, we still have the story of Robert. Robert is a bee farmer, and you know, he has shared with us where he is at the moment. He has a community of over 10,000 farmers that he's working with in the area of Lira. He's producing and supplying the local market, but as well the export market, particularly Japan. Now, Robert, I'm sure the number of young people, especially, you know, who are watching this show, and you know, young people tend to be inspired by looking at what someone has got. You know, we seem to be quite very visual nowadays. Yeah. That's why everything, including the gospel these days, people talk about prosperity and that kind of thing. So it comes down to that in a way. So out of this business, for starters, even before I reach that particular point, because I know it's not always a walk in the park, what are some of the, you know, challenges that you had to contend with at a certain point, especially as we were transitioning from just being a bee farmer to now going into value addition to now exporting and that kind of thing? And how did you scale those particular challenges to be where you are today?
Okay, yeah. One of them was planning. Initially, when I started, apart from the training I got from Enterprise Uganda, I was very raw. So then I had challenges there, so I had to seek for more capacity building, like I visited those other places I talk about. Then to like reduce on my skill and knowledge gap on the sector. Then the issue of market, a new person bringing a new product, and that time we have a lot of honey imported. Yes. So then people don't know your product, and it was challenging. So then what me and my team had to do was to go to individuals. We started with individual sales. And then the individual sales had to go, when they go to supermarket, they'd start asking for our products. Then eventually when we visited the supermarket, they said, okay, clients have been asking about this. Then
because of the quality.
Yeah, because of the quality. And then the consistent. So that is it. Then issues of finance, it's actually discipline as well. Like money from sales shouldn't come to me as the MD or the CEO. We have a system in place where the money goes to. I get paid. If I put gas in my car, I need to account for it. It's a company money. So financial discipline is also very important. But also it's up to you as a CEO or the MD to know what you want for your company. And I think it's not good to be overexcited. You need to live a humble lifestyle and then see how you can move forward and then invest what you're getting back to the business before you invest on yourself. But eventually, at some level, you need to invest on yourself because you need to have a sound and settled mind as well, so you can plan well for your business. So eventually, like probably me, I own my home in Lira City. So the issues of rent, it doesn't stress me. And I have a family, I'm fully married, so that is also a success. And then
that's a big one.
Yeah. Then now I've started to invest in companies' asset. We have bought a company land, 2 lands actually for the company. One, we have started to build a laboratory it's going to be private sector-led laboratory.
Okay.
So like when we find challenges in hive colonization, that place is going to support farmers to identify the problem and then addresses it.
Beautiful.
So then eventually all our processing plant will shift it that side in the future. Because now we want to do a one-stop center. When you come there, you find the laboratory, the factories, the storage. Yeah. So I think it's also wise to invest back to the company because that will generate you more income. More margin will come. Yeah.
You don't eat the seed.
You don't eat the seed. Yeah.
About some challenges about the suppliers, the community supplying you, and you are now here having certain standards. Did you have any challenge on that?
Yeah, actually, like the communities, we had some challenges. One of them is side selling. Some of the farmers we are doing contract farming with, they still sell to other people. Probably they have a loan with the company and then they're fearing to give to the company what belongs to the company, so they do side selling. Then the other thing is on environment. There are a lot of intensive farming around the places for beekeeping, but also there's high population pressure. So this is bringing a lot of issues in the bees' habitat because the bees need shades, the bees need flowers. And then the intensive farming, they're using chemicals to spray crops, grains. So the chemicals are killing the bees. So that's one of the biggest challenges we're trying to see how we can handle. Probably now we need the other private sector bodies and then the government to see how we can address the challenge, because we need bees for pollination. We need bees for conserving the environment. And if bees are not there, probably we're going to have a challenge with our environment and ecosystem. So I think we need to see how we can reserve the habitat for the bees or create more woodlots for the bees. Yeah. Then eventually the other last is the market-based approach that we are trying to promote. Like some farmers, we work with a number of farmers and most of them want cash on delivery. Yeah. So sometimes we don't have cash on delivery. And then probably farmer sells. That's not actually side selling. Now they sell to other company because they want cash.
Yeah. They need.
They need, yeah.
I think that's a good one. Yeah. Then there's the marketing element. A number of farmers sometimes get excited going to these spaces, but where to sell? Especially, of course, you've touched a bit of that, but beyond Uganda, how did you penetrate the Japanese, the export market, so to speak?
Yes.
How did you go about that?
Okay. The export market was actually a dream come true. One of my strategies was to produce for export, and in our strategic plan, we developed about 6-7 years ago, was to see us export. So we had a plan in place, and then we were trying to follow up on our plan. So it's just not that we woke up and then we export. No, we had a plan in place, so then we were following up the plan. Two, we have a lot of network and collaboration. As a businessman, we invest a lot in friends. So we have a number of friends outside the country that believe in what we are doing here. So eventually they can meet, they network, they'll always talk something good about what we are trying to do here and what we can do for the market. Then the Japanese came in 2015 through an agent here in Kampala, because I think we were in the newspaper about the beeswax we are producing. So then they picked my contact from there, they called me. We have seen your picture in the social media. We are interested in taking your sample for a test, a laboratory analysis in Japan, and then eventually we'll see if we can do business with you. Then we organized the sample. They took the sample, the result came back. Their first order was 5 metric tons. That was 2017.
And how were you doing capacity-wise?
At that time, were you able to meet such a big...
We had to struggle for about 7 months to raise the 5 metric tons. Yeah, because the capital was not enough, but then also, you know, beeswax, you need to keep it there for a long time before you sell. And that was the minimum we could ship, 5 metric tons.
Wow.
Yeah, so because we were trained, the capital was already still there for about
But you
5
didn't give up. You said,
No.
we'll have to deliver this.
We had to pick some more loans to top up. Then eventually, the beauty about the export is the terms of payment. They pay revocable letter of credit. You bring bill of lading from Mombasa, and then the bank credit your account. So now, the risk of the container reaching or not reaching, now it's not on you.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way to borrow from the bank, Charles.
Very true.
When you know you have a market,
Yes.
and of course you had already established, you know, and grounded yourself in understanding the business.
Correct.
You know where to get the quantities, much as they weren't already available, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's quite interesting. But then, of course, many people invest in their communities where they come from. You know, they would tell you, you know, besides, you know, the boardroom issues and issues to do with business, there are also issues to do with community. Because remember, probably you have cousins there. You have your aunties who saw you coming up.
Yes.
You know, they want to be the accountants. They want that very important, or do you say job now?
Correct.
How do you reconcile all those interests to actually stay focused? And
actually, at the beginning, I messed up on that. I brought a lot of relatives.
Okay.
And then they disrupted a lot also on the company performance. So then eventually, when we were growing up with the trainings we got from Enterprise Uganda and other companies, we were told to come up with company policies.
Yes.
So that when you bring in somebody, it works according to the policy which is there, not because Robert is my brother or my friend. So that also helped us to set up few systems. But now, our head of operation is my elder brother, Mr. Emmanuel Patrick Opio. He's actually a teacher by profession. So then he took me up when I was young. I studied at his place. So he's our head of operation. He respects me as his boss,
I hear you.
not as a brother.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then we have terms and conditions of the work. My wife, Rebecca, is our accountant.
Okay.
Yeah, we also have our financial process and then financial policies, which is in place.
I hear you.
And we must work towards it.
So at a certain point, you transition and start to structure. You're like, okay, I now have to deal away, I imagine, with some relatives. And I'm sure there could be some viewers who are wondering, how do you find a relative? How did you handle that? Because it comes with a number of tendrils, which you have to unlock.
Yeah, we normally have a lot of meetings to see the gap, the challenges, the way forward, and then also we give ourselves target. So then when you fail to meet your target, you said then probably we have to get somebody else to support you there.
I hear you.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Viewers, you can be part of this discussion. Again, we are flashing that number on your screen so that you can send some of those pointers. I've seen some have said coming through, and Robert and Charles will actually try to tackle some of these as we proceed in the show. Charles, your quick picks there.
Robert's story is a story of what it takes to transition from informality to formality. What it takes to separate yourself from the business. In the beginning, he was warped right in the game there. But along the way, he began to first pick up the capacity. What does it take to be professional in beekeeping? Now you can see how he speaks about how to locate a beehive. He now discovers that, you know what, for me to keep going on with this game, I know relatives were my first reach because that was the easiest. But I've now seen that in the market, I'm competing with others. I have targets. If somebody cannot fulfill the targets, let the person go. He is now informed by that by now saying, anybody who gets a job at a business, there must be terms and conditions for employment. And on an annual basis, we have got a strategy document against which individuals contribute. And your contribution is represented by the targets you have to fulfill. You fail to fulfill those ones, they try to assist you. If you can't cope, you leave. Very interesting story indeed. And then the other thing that you see again here is that this person here began to inherit qualities of financial discipline. Fueling a personal car, you don't just go and say, my wife is the cashier, give the money. After all, this car, you know, I'm the one driving. Say, no, no, please fill up the forms, fill up the vouchers. Proper accountability. Then people are now salaried. And this is what we keep teaching people and say that, you know what, formalization is not just registering at the register of company.
Yes.
How are you behaving and running the company on a day-to-day basis? Extremely, extremely important. So Robert's story is a very, very, very uplifting story. And so a story where he also says, you know what, when I went and got my story in the papers, somebody says, I want you. But I don't want you just because you appeared in the papers. Prove your case. Give me a sample. Now, if a sample has been taken and the sample you gave was really a good one, but you are not able to continuously match that exact sample, the orders will stop.
Absolutely.
But you can also see that the very first sample made him to gasp. He could not fulfill it. But you don't simply say, nah, I think the basis just disappear.
I'll switch off the phone.
If somebody has asked for 5 tons, it means it can be done. So how do I get into this? Let me try the minimum I can manage, 5 tons. 2, he now discovers at that point that if I went and talked with a bank, there's an order, there's a good market. The bankers are likely to say, oh, we can now do contract financing. So he goes into the banking industry with a fully looped transaction. There's a supply, there's a consumer, there's a delivery mechanism. The banker says, my risks are eliminated. I can take courage and give you a loan. So you can see how the person breaks into the banking industry and begins to touch a loan. He is touching it fully aware it is ring-fenced with a beautiful business transaction.
That's beautiful indeed. Now, lastly, you know, in the midst of all this, business is going well and that kind of thing, COVID happens. That is 2020. And I know the number of our viewers who are watching us, and probably some could be looking at you and are saying, I think Robert wasn't affected by this thing. Now, did it affect you? How did you, you know, keep afloat, manage to keep afloat to date and to be doing what you're doing?
Yeah, we still have actually the impact up to now, the impact of COVID in our company. One, when the pandemic broke, we had to close because that was a directive from the government, total lockdown. But eventually, there's a communication again, so we developed SOPs. Other staff, we had to lay them off, full-time staff actually. And then it was easy for us. Actually, I think this is important. We were using part-time staff, so we pay them on the engagement, and the engagement as a target and a deliverable. So that's how we manage. That is one. 2, we were lucky that honey is immune boosting. So then we had some few customers who could buy, but still the restriction of movement also hinders that. So then we were also struggling along that kind of arrangement to see how to send, but it's not easy to send. One thing that I learned is we started online. We started with a Facebook. Then eventually that's how we ended up creating a WhatsApp group for the company, and then we added up most of our clients, so then they could start ordering online. So we had to raise some money for the rent because the company rent a place in town in the city center for our operation, but the operation was totally closed operation. So that affected the income for the company. So
as a way of trying to adapt, you went online?
Yes.
And started to utilize these digital spaces?
Yes.
I think that's a good one. It's a good story, Charles, yeah.
It is a very good one. And then, you know, you go into something that you had never done before. And one of those is laying off an employee that you think you've been having for a long time.
Yeah.
Something many entrepreneurs were not familiar with.
Yes.
So that courage to say, friend, you know, we work with the targets. Unfortunately, these targets are now affected by the market. For now, let's not have you on board.
Very good. Now,
then obviously, there are also some opportunities that came in where now, as they listen to ways of coping with likelihood of infection by COVID, they tell you that if you put honey in the tea with the lemon, it will improve your immunity. That was the silver lining. They walked in and said, by the way, we have the honey. Yes. So keeping your ear on the ground for an entrepreneur is such a beautiful requirement. You just have to have it all the time. Indeed, indeed.
Dear viewers, this is the time when we're going to touch your questions. Quite a number have come through.
Okay.
And gentlemen, I'll kindly request we keep it brief so that we are able to answer as many as we can.
Yeah.
Now, Charles, there's a quick one for you. Harold, thanks for the show. How do you advise an employed person to safely transition into entrepreneurship?
Can I go straight or we first?
No, you can go straight.
Okay.
Let's offload them as...
Transitioning into entrepreneurship should never have what you call an ideal timetable. Start with something that you can immediately get on with while you are enjoying and running that office that engages you on full-time basis. He told you he started with his beehives. After putting the beehives there, he continued with his journalism. And even right now, he's continuing with these other areas of interest. The other business is moving. Start with something that you can have enough time for and you can monitor while you're in your full-time job.
Perfect.
But start as soon as possible.
I hear you. Now, I have Chris Muhwezi. He's from Busheng, but currently staying in Lira. He's saying, I would like to thank Robert for sharing with us a wonderful experience. It is so inspiring. I have a simple concern. Do you and your company have intentions of extending to the West? Because I have about 20 farmers from my village, but we have not taken it to that level. Thanks.
Yeah, Muhwezi, thank you for your question. We already have a few clients, actually, like beeswax we buy across the country. Beeswax we buy across the country. So that will also, we're going to, the other second product that we're looking forward to buy across the country is honey. But still, we're trying to do a lot of training, and probably you'll pick my contract. We do a lot of training for you guys so that you understand the quality parameters that we need. And then eventually we'll open up with the market and then working with the farmers.
Okay. Then I have quite a number of viewers, and I think at the end of it all, you can talk about how they can get to you. I have some people from Palisa, some from Bali. They're saying, how can they build collaborations with you, with that inspiring experience? So collaboration with you, but then also collaboration with Enterprise Uganda. If you can speak to that very fast as we pick the others.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm very honored to have Mr. Ochichi. It's been a while, and I've been looking forward to get him. Now I've got him. So we have a lot of youth that need capacity building. Even for me to go and talk to them, to inspire them with my story. I understand Enterprise Uganda can do this. So if we could do regional meeting for the youth and then young people, to inspire them, we talk to them about business, about how they can transition from employment then to self-employment.
Self-employment.
Yeah.
Great. A bit related to that, I have someone is saying he was recently retrenched from NFA and he decided to create an IT company. But he sees opportunity in farming. So he's saying, he's from Germany. So he's saying one of the areas he's looking at is beekeeping. Where should he start? What would you give?
No, actually, you can still be in your ICT and then you create a platform for us in beekeeping. Maybe I need a hub. Maybe in the future I need to put a hub in my hive to see if the beehive is, if the hive is full, or if the honey is matured. If we have a technology placed inside the hive, then I can see from my phone. I can be in Kampala, keep my bees in Lira. So probably it's not about shifting from your passion to something else. We can still work together in the ICT sector to develop a platform for us in beekeeping, and then you still get your money there, and we get our money there. But also, if you want to join, that's okay, you're welcome. I'll give my contact, I'll give you some few tips, and then also consulting on each other on how you can move forward.
I hear you. Charles, this sits in between, and I think specifically looking at you, he's saying he's Magara, he's from Busheng, he's trying to establish a bee business, but sometimes he loses morale. Although he has 40 beehives with bees, he needs some encouragement. How do you encourage an entrepreneur to keep loving and liking his business?
Very good question. Mr. Magara needs to pick up what we have just shared from Robert. One of them is that the game of an entrepreneur many times is a personal choice. You are the one to pick up opportunities for learning. And that should take you to areas where there are some people better than you. You are the one to look at the market and try to make a breakthrough in that market. Again, you need to be interacting with people who have been in the space before. It's also the entrepreneur who chooses the kind of technology to go for. So the first thing you need to know is just lift yourself and know that you are not the only one in that space. There are many, many people in that space, and the opportunity that has come this afternoon is the opportunity of meeting Robert. Robert is going to share his contacts. And when he does that, please have an opportunity to interact with Robert through technology, through visits, through exhibitions. Robert has lifted himself. He mentioned exhibitions. And some of these, it takes your own endeavors to make them to happen. So Robert, is a good question to ask, but also begin to see that there are some business traits you need to cultivate. And Enterprise Uganda is more than willing to take one through that kind of a game. It's what we do best.
I hear you.
Yeah.
An interesting comment has come through. I don't know what you can say about it, Charles.
Yeah.
Someone is saying today's youth love negative stories. They love to hear that you used to be rich, now you are poor. Not that I used to be poor, now I'm rich. Good one.
Sorry, I'm so sorry that I'm about to laugh it off because you know, when you are in a certain situation, you need to comfort yourself that even the poor will have become, I mean, even the rich have joined us.
Yes.
So you kind of feel it now.
We have quorum.
Yes. And that is because that route doesn't make you to get up to go and sweat.
Yeah.
But if you hear a story which says, this is a person who was from an IDP, this is a person who stopped in senior 4, this is a person who was lifted by grandmother, and this is a person who was lifted by his brother who was a teacher with limited income, and see where he has reached, that makes your brain to push you and make you feel guilty. Nobody wants that discomfort. So the other story where you just say, aha, he used to be okay, now he has joined us. You remain folding your hands and you do nothing anymore and now blame something else.
Interesting.
So I do appreciate where many are coming from and where those who are actually saying, it's more interesting to listen to a story of success coming down than a story of hard work, basics, making breakthrough and getting in there, because it makes you guilty.
I hear you.
And it's the guilt that we tend to run away from.
Indeed, indeed.
And these afternoon sessions will continue to make that picture to come through. Absolutely. We will pick individuals from all types of walks of life to make everyone watching this show realize that one thing is clear: you have control of your future. And to control that future beautifully, there's one word you must learn to take care of. Whether you get a job, whether you start a business, and that word is customer. You are employed. Are you looking after the customer, or you are trying to say how to dodge a job and please the boss? You have a business. Are you thinking that business is just about going to a bank and lifting a bank loan? Where's the customer? So this afternoon, Sunday episodes on Business X-Ray, we will continue to shine on that word, customer, customer, customer.
Beautiful. And you answer, and probably you can elaborate on this with one of the viewers. He's saying, great show. I'm a big fan of Ochichi. I still need his workshops to boost my business goals. Any platforms for this? And I have to say, part of the platform is actually this show. but you can speak to that more as well.
Yes, on a weekly basis, we have got Thursday clinics where we take on a few people and pick on specific topics that we share on physical basis, but also on virtual basis every Thursday. But get in touch with Enterprise Uganda, and I can at this point share my telephone number. I'm reachable on 0772 699 808.
Great. Perfect, perfect. And on that, I think you've also answered Moses from Hoima. He was also wondering actually how we can access your calendar of events, especially for upcountry. But I think we'll organize that and have it read to our viewers as well.
Yeah, and well. Good news is that we are beginning to open up the country. And the institution is marking 20 years with unmatched products for everybody out there. So whether you are #1 in your sector, wherever you are, we have a product to keep you right up there. If you are struggling, we have got a product to get you and firmly re-strengthen your feet. If you are struggling on which kind of sector to get into, again, we have got those kind of products to assist individuals in different spaces.
Perfect, perfect. I have someone here is saying he has idle land and is inspired by your story. Where can they begin to go into this space? A bit related to the man from Ajuman,
Okay.
but this one already has the land.
Okay, fine. You take my contact on 0775 126 125. It's even on WhatsApp. So let's take on from here.
Charles, I have Hope from Mbale. You know, we've always got these questions. I have 2 millions. What can I do? Now, Hope has 3 millions. He wants to go into business.
She wants to go into business.
She wants to go into business.
Hope, I can only say this. Every business starts with a business idea. And a good business idea is one whereby the resources you currently have will make you produce a solution and deliver to the customer and be able to again repeat that process. If you use 3 million and then you have not reached a point where the product is ready to be delivered to the customer, you have a financing gap, you have a resource deficit that will affect you. But to take this conversation forward, Hope can always reach me on the number I've just shared. But a good business idea is one that you start where you are, the way you are, but you're able to deliver a solution that will make a customer come back.
Okay, then I have a satisfied client of yours, Charles, is saying, thanks Ochichi for opening our eyes in Bushenyi when we had you in 2009. He's not leaving the name, he's saying.
We will continue getting back to Bushenyi and many other places, including our great people from Uganda. And we have also a great audience that keeps coming from Kigali. Eddie keeps watching this regularly. And I've promised Eddie from Kigali that come 2022, we are going to get to Kigali and have a conversation with Eddie and the team on how the model of Enterprise Uganda can be started in their own country. And
I have quite a number actually from Kigali and Tanzania. Also, actually they were asking for the contact. And how they can access the trainings for Enterprise Uganda. But that is addressed. Robert, coming back to you, what are your plans going forward as we come to the end of this interface?
Okay, we have a plan to reach out to 30,000 farmers within 10 years. And maybe each of them could be producing about 100 kg for us on minimum. And we want to do about 500,000 metric ton of honey annually. And then about 20,000 kgs to 50,000 of beeswax. We want to create employment for about 100 youth within 10 years from now in our complete value chain. And then also we want to scale up our facilities. We want to do, we're already in contact with the European Union on setting up our storage facility to meet their demand. And then we're looking at how we can do more trade, maybe reaching out to 5 more countries in 10 years. And then maybe doing about 200 supermarkets. And then also we've started to sell to hotels, maybe 500 more hotels who could be selling to.
That's quite beautiful, quite some ambitious plan there. And we wish you the best. Charles, what would be your parting words in the context of Robert
Yes.
and what we are contending with today?
I think one of the things that comes out of today's story, which is really uplifting, is the fact that no matter the challenges you lived through in your past, if life is still there, start where you are and keep moving. 2, the journey of an entrepreneur is resting with a lot of weight on the shoulders of the person.
Yeah.
You are the one to lift yourself and move beyond the territory where you are and begin to set those big goals. If you don't, nobody will push you.
Yeah.
Number 3, you also see that this man, as he began to rock it, nobody can own him now. We cannot say as Enterprise Uganda we own Robert, no. Robert is wanted by the Export Promotion Board. Robert is wanted by UIA. Robert is wanted by a bank. Robert was wanted by the Japanese. A successful entrepreneur cannot be owned. And that should be the pride of everybody who assists such an entrepreneur in their game of success. Yeah. And that's a well-illustrated story in here. The other one also, you discover that no matter the challenges, most of these challenges, you are the first source of potential remedies. He saw the challenge of the environment, which is getting damaged, and he says woodlots could help. Because you mentioned that to government, they say, now what? But he's living through the challenge, and he knows how to try and get on to fix it. So there's a lot that the private sector can do to make a country that's a great nation. And thank you so much for those kind of inspiring stories. And then, of course, the other thing I think that comes out through Robert's story is that being successful as an island is a dangerous thing. Yeah. Let as many people as you can be part of your good story. But as that happens, you get decorated with accolades. Yeah. You appear in the press. As you appear in the press, opportunity that you never knew, the 80,000 euros, came through because somebody just said, oh, this is beautiful, this is good, I want this man. And they located him. In other words, success looks for success.
And that note,
so
Charles,
please, Ugandans, just take it as plain as that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's well put. Success looks for success. And indeed, we thank Enterprise Uganda for this opportunity. It's a platform where we've committed to bring you stories, real stories of entrepreneurs that are sweating it out there and have also ticked quite some boxes as well, so that we can learn together, pick the experiences they've gone through and see how we can turn them around, you know, to fortify our business enterprises. Charles, thank you so much for the time.
Always a pleasure.
And thank you, Robert.
You're welcome.
Again, we thank Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development for supporting the show. I've been your host, Charles Boji. Until next time, have a good evening and God bless.